Episode 1. The Locked Room That No One Rented. They told us never to knock on room 213. The resident assistant said it with a forced laugh during orientation, as if it were a harmless dorm tradition, but his eyes darted away too quickly. He didn't want us to ask questions. He didn't want to admit that the door to room 213 had been locked for years. Yet sometimes, people swore they heard someone inside. On my first night, I couldn't sleep. The hum of the old heater filled my ears, and the thin dorm walls carried every cough, every whispered phone call. But sometime after 2 a.m., a sound cut through everything else, a chair dragging slowly across the floor. I sat up in bed, heart hammering. The sound was coming from the other side of the wall, room 213. The locked room, the empty room. I told myself it was just pipes or my imagination. But then came the knocking. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the wall right where my bed pressed against it. I froze. My roommate was snoring, dead asleep. No one else should have been there. The next morning, I asked the RA about it. He stiffened. Room 213 has no furniture. It hasn't been used in years. And then he leaned in, lowered his voice. If you hear it again, don't respond. Don't ever knock back. Of course, I didn't listen. A week later, I heard it again. The dragging sound, the muffled shuffle of footsteps. My pulse pounded in my ears. This time, when the knock came, 3 measured thuds, I lifted my hand and tapped back once. Silence. For a moment, I thought I'd imagined it. Then, slowly, something knocked again. Not 3 times, not 2, just 1, as if answering me directly. That night, my dreams were violent, suffocating. I woke up with my sheets tangled around me like restraints and the taste of dust in my mouth. The wall was icy cold against my skin, as if someone on the other side had been pressing their body against it all night. The next day, I found a slip of paper shoved under my door. No handwriting, just one sentence printed in faded ink. If you let me in, I'll never leave. I haven't told anyone about that note. I don't need to, because now, every night the knocks come closer, lower on the wall, nearer to the floor, like something crawling toward the gap beneath my door. And last night, I swear I heard the lock on room 213 click open. Episode 2. The Closet That Breathed. When I first moved into my dorm room, I thought the closet was too small for 2 people. It was narrow, dark, and smelled faintly of mildew, like clothes had been left to rot inside for years. My roommate laughed when I complained, saying, "Don't worry, man, you'll get used to it." But I never did, because the closet breathed. It started my second night. Just as I was drifting off, I heard it, a slow, heavy exhale, like someone trying to catch their breath after running. I sat up, staring into the darkness. My roommate was asleep, headphones still glowing faintly in his ears. The sound came again, unmistakable this time. Inhale, exhale, deep, wet, human. I whispered, "Hello." My own voice cracked in the stillness. The closet answered with silence. But I swear the wooden door trembled slightly, as if something inside had just shifted. I told myself it was old pipes, maybe the heater, but the sound didn't stop. Every night, around the same time, I'd hear it, sometimes soft, like it was holding its breath, other times ragged and fast, as if gasping through panic. One night, unable to take it anymore, I grabbed my phone and recorded. I held the mic up close to the door. When I played it back, my stomach turned. It wasn't just breathing. Between each inhale, there was a faint whisper, so faint I had to press the phone to my ear. A woman's voice, saying words I couldn't make out. The next day, I asked the RA about the closet. He avoided my eyes. That room had incidents. Don't leave the closet open at night. Just don't. He wouldn't explain further. I didn't listen. Curiosity gnawed me. That night, just before bed, I left the closet door wide open. I lay awake, staring into the black rectangle of its mouth. Hours passed. Nothing. Then, just as my eyes began to close, the breathing started again, louder this time, filling the room. My roommate stirred, groggy, asking, "Dude, is that you?" Before I could answer, something shifted inside the closet. A shape leaned forward in the dark, barely visible, like someone crouching at the threshold. The air grew thick. My lungs refused to work. My roommate flicked on his lamp, and the closet was empty. But the sound didn't stop. It was no longer coming from the closet. It was right next to my ear. Episode 3. The Roommate Who Never Slept. Everyone warned me that dorm life meant sleepless nights, loud music, people partying, doors slamming at 3 a.m. What I didn't expect was that my sleepless nights would come from my roommate, who never slept at all. At first, I thought it was just his routine. He'd sit at his desk with the lamp on, eyes fixed on the window. Hours passed, and he never moved, never typed, never scrolled on his laptop, just stared. When I asked him what he was looking at, he mumbled, "The dark looks back, you know." The first week I laughed it off. College stress makes people weird, right? But then came the second week. Every night, I woke up to the same sight, him sitting perfectly still, eyes wide open, breathing so shallow I couldn't even see his chest rise. The air around him felt wrong, heavy, like the room itself was holding its breath. I tried shaking him once. His skin was cold, clammy. He didn't blink, didn't speak. Only when I backed away did he whisper, almost to himself, "If I close my eyes, it will come back." That's when I started losing sleep. I began watching him the way he watched the window, and the longer I stared, the more I noticed there was something off about his reflection in the glass. When the moonlight hit just right, I could see myself lying in bed behind him, but his reflection never turned its head. It stayed fixed on me. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I called the RA, told him my roommate hadn't slept in days. He looked confused. "Wait, what room are you in?" 214, I said. His face drained of color. 214 has been a single since last year. I thought it was a joke, but when I pressed, he showed me the records. No one had checked in as my roommate. No one had a key but me. I rushed back to the room, heart pounding, and swung open the door. Empty. The bed across from mine was neatly made, untouched. His desk was bare. And yet when I turned toward the window, I saw him, sitting there in the glass, watching me with eyes that never closed. That was 3 nights ago. Now I avoid mirrors, avoid windows, because no matter where I go, no matter how many lights I turn on, his reflection is always there, staring back at me, waiting for me to blink. Episode 4, The Midnight Screams. The first time I heard it, I thought someone was being murdered in the dorm. It was that real, that raw. A scream so sharp it felt like it split my eardrums. It came at exactly 3 o'clock a.m., echoing down the hallway like a knife dragged across metal. I jumped out of bed, heart pounding, and yanked my door open. The hall was empty, every door shut tight, every light flickering its usual sickly yellow. Then, another scream, louder this time, closer. It didn't sound human anymore. It sounded broken, like a voice torn in half. Doors began cracking open up and down the hall. Groggy faces peered out, pale and wide-eyed. No one said a word. We were all frozen, listening. The scream came again, so close it felt like it was right behind my door, but the corridor stretched silent and bare. The RA came stumbling in minutes later, demanding to know who was pulling the prank. Nobody answered. Nobody could, because every single one of us had been in our rooms listening to the same impossible sound. By the third night, the pattern was clear. It always happened at 3 a.m. sharp, always lasted for 3 long, piercing wails, then silence. Some students started leaving their rooms early, waiting together in the lounge just to avoid hearing it. Others shoved earplugs deep and prayed. But I couldn't resist. I wanted to know where it came from. So, on the 5th night, I sat in the hallway with my phone recording. The air grew heavy as the minute hand ticked closer to 3. Then, right on time, it came. The scream, blasting through the corridor so violently that my phone shook in my hand. But this time, there was something new. After the last wail faded, I heard whispering. Not words exactly, but a choked rhythm, like sobbing through clenched teeth. And when I checked the recording, my blood turned to ice. The voice wasn't just screaming, it was calling my name. The next morning, a janitor quietly told me something the RA never would. 10 years ago, a student had hung herself in our hallway. Her body was discovered at 3 o'clock a.m., after her neighbors swore they heard her scream for help. Now I don't walk the hall at night. I don't leave my door open. But sometimes, lying in bed, I feel a weight pressing against my door. Hear fingernails dragging across the wood. She doesn't just scream anymore. Episode 5, The Girl Who Knocked Twice. They say the worst thing you can do in our dorm is answer a knock that comes twice. Not once, not 3 times, always 2. At first, I thought it was just another campus legend, the kind people whisper during orientation to scare the freshmen. But I found out the truth on a stormy night in October. I had been cramming for an exam, half asleep over my laptop when the sound came. Knock, knock. 2 sharp raps against my door. I glanced at the clock. 2:14 a.m. Nobody visits at that hour. I froze, waiting for a third knock that never came. Just silence. My throat went dry. The RA's words from weeks ago replayed in my head. If you hear 2 knocks, don't answer. Don't even move. I sat there holding my breath. Then it came again. Knock, knock. Harder this time. I couldn't resist. I leaned toward the peephole, heart pounding. The hallway was empty. No shadows, no footsteps. Nothing but the humming fluorescent lights. That's when my phone buzzed on the desk. A text from an unknown number. Why didn't you open? My stomach dropped. I didn't reply. I shoved the phone away, but minutes later another buzz. I'm still here. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I wanted to scream, but my voice died in my throat. Then came the third text. The one that made my blood run cold. Look down. I don't know why I listened. I glanced toward the crack beneath my door. For a moment, nothing. Then, slowly, a shadow spread across the floor. 2 pale feet standing just inches away from me, facing my door. The knocks stopped after that night, but the texts didn't. Every few days, a message arrives from that same unknown number. Always short. Always the same. Knock, knock. And the worst part? Last night, my roommate swore he heard my phone buzzing long after I'd fallen asleep. When he checked, the screen was dark. Dead battery. But the knocking still came. 2 sharp raps right against the wall between our beds. Episode 6. The elevator that only went down. Everyone at the dorm knew the elevator was broken. The sign taped above the button said, "Out of order, use stairs." But the truth was stranger. The elevator still worked, just not the way it was supposed to. I found out one night after a late study session. My legs ached from climbing stairs all week. So when I saw the elevator doors slide open on their own, empty, I thought, why not? I pressed the button for the 5th floor. The panel lit up. The doors closed. But instead of going up, the elevator jerked violently and started descending. Basement level, that's what I assumed. But the dorm didn't have a basement, at least not on any map. The numbers on the panel blinked lower than 0. 1, 2, 3. My chest tightened with each passing floor. The air grew heavy, damp, like the walls were sweating. Finally, with a shudder, the elevator stopped. The doors slid open into pitch blackness. A hallway stretched out, lined with doors that looked just like the dorm above, but older, rotting, covered in peeling paint. I stepped out, the floor soft beneath my shoes, as if swollen with water. Then I heard it. Voices. Dozens of them, faint but overlapping, crying, whispering, calling for help. I followed the sound, heart hammering. The hallway seemed endless, every door locked, every knob rusted solid, until I reached one that was slightly open. Inside, the room looked exactly like mine. Same bed, same desk, same window. Only, the window was bricked up, and on the bed lay a mattress soaked in something dark. That's when I saw movement. In the corner, a figure crouched low, its face pressed against the wall. Its shoulders rose and fell with each ragged breath. I stumbled back, but the thing snapped its head toward me. It wasn't a stranger. It was me. My own face, pale and hollow-eyed, mouth twisted in a silent scream. I bolted. I don't remember pressing the elevator button, only that the doors finally closed and the car rattled upward again. When they opened, I was back on the 1st floor, trembling, drenched in sweat. The next morning I ran to show my RA what had happened. He only sighed. "Don't ever take the elevator after midnight," he said. "That's how they keep adding new floors." And last night, walking past the shaft, I saw the panel flicker on its own, a new number glowing faintly at the bottom. 14. Episode 7. The mirror that showed a different dorm. The mirror in the communal bathroom was cracked, but that wasn't what unsettled me. It was the reflection. Every time I brushed my teeth at night, the mirror didn't just show me. It showed a dorm that wasn't ours. Same tiled walls, same row of sinks, but dirtier. The lights in the reflection flickered like dying candles, and sometimes I swore I saw shapes moving between the stalls. At first I thought it was my imagination. College exhaustion, bad lighting, maybe the crack in the glass messing with my eyes. But then came the night when I realized the reflection was ahead of me. I leaned in close, studying my face. My reflection leaned too, but then it smiled, seconds before I did. My heart stopped. I stumbled back, toothbrush clattering to the floor. The reflection stood there grinning, lips curling far too wide, even as my own mouth hung open in shock. The next day, I asked around. A sophomore girl told me she'd stopped using that bathroom entirely. "Sometimes," she whispered, "the stalls open in the mirror even when they're closed here." She claimed she once saw a hand, bone white and trembling, press against the glass from the other side. I wanted to prove her wrong. That night, I brought my phone and hit record. I stood in front of the mirror, filming. At first, everything looked normal, but when I replayed the video, my blood went cold. The recording showed the bathroom behind me filled with people. Students I didn't recognize, all standing perfectly still, their faces blurred like smudged paint. Worse, they were staring directly at me. I dropped the phone, heart slamming in my chest. When I looked back at the mirror, the reflection was empty again. Just me, pale and sweating, and the crack running down the glass. But I couldn't shake the feeling I wasn't alone. Later that night, lying in bed, I opened my camera roll to delete the video. Only now there were dozens of them, recordings I hadn't taken, each one from the mirror's perspective, watching me in the bathroom, watching me walk out, watching me sleep. And in the last video, only hours old, I wasn't in my bed at all. I was standing in this bathroom mirror, staring back. Episode 8, The Breath in the Mirror. No one had ever stayed in dorm room 3B for more than a semester. The legend whispered among students was that the room had a mirror that didn't just reflect, it breathed. I didn't believe it until that night. The radiator had gone silent, and the room felt colder than the rest of the dorm. My reflection in the tall mirror across from my bed seemed ordinary at first, just me, curled under a blanket, scrolling through my phone. But then, the glass fogged up, like someone was on the other side, exhaling. At first, I told myself it was a draft, but the fog spread into words. Slow, shaky letters formed across the glass. "Let me in." My phone slipped from my hand. I sat up, pulse hammering in my chest. My reflection didn't move with me. It stayed sitting, clutching its phone, frozen in time. I whispered, "Who are you?" The fog smeared, vanishing. Then, the reflection lifted its head. Its mouth moved, but no sound came out, until the glass trembled with a low rasp. Not echoing in the room, but vibrating from the mirror itself. I am what was left behind. I should have run. I should have screamed, but I was paralyzed, trapped in its gaze. My reflection pressed its hand against the glass. The surface rippled like water. On my side, the air grew damp, heavy. It exhaled again. My mirror fogged a second time, shaping a new word, trade. I don't remember making a choice. I only remember leaning closer, closer, until my forehead touched the cold glass. The breath on the other side was hot against my skin, and then the reflection smiled. I blinked, and suddenly I was watching myself from inside the mirror. My body on the bed stretched, yawned, stood up like nothing had happened. But I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. All I could do was watch, as the thing wearing my face walked out of the room and switched off the lights. And in the suffocating dark, I felt another presence beside me in the mirror. Something older, something that had been waiting for company, breathing. Episode 9, The Roommate Who Returned. When Claire's roommate, Jenna, vanished over winter break, everyone assumed she'd dropped out. That's what the administration said anyway. Personal reasons. Family matters. But Claire knew better. Jenna hadn't just left. She had disappeared. The room they'd shared, 2A, never felt empty though. Every night, Claire swore she heard the faint squeak of Jenna's desk chair, the shuffle of feet that weren't hers. She'd wake up to find Jenna's bed perfectly made, as though someone had just smoothed the sheets. Then, one Friday night, Claire returned from the library and froze at the door. A shadow moved inside, a silhouette sitting on Jenna's bed. Her first thought was relief. She's back, finally, she's back. "Jenna?" she whispered. The figure didn't answer. It just sat there, shoulders hunched, hair falling over its face. The air smelled wrong, like mildew and iron. Claire turned on the light. The girl on the bed looked like Jenna, but not quite. Her skin was pale, waxy, and her eyes were wide, unblinking. She smiled too slowly, like she had to remember how. "Miss me?" the voice asked. It was Jenna's tone, but doubled, like two voices speaking at once. Claire's throat tightened. Where did you go?" Jenna's doppelganger tilted her head. "I never left. I was waiting, right here." She tapped the mattress, and when she lifted her hand, the sheets were damp. Dark stains spread across the fabric, blooming like ink. Claire stumbled back, but the door slammed shut behind her. The thing stood. Its hair fell away from its face, revealing skin stretched too tight, lips splitting at the corners. It stepped forward, leaving wet footprints on the tile. Claire tried to scream, but Jenna, or whatever wore her body, pressed a finger to its lips. "Shh, don't wake the others, not yet." Then it climbed into Claire's bed, pulled the blanket over itself, closed its eyes, and in the silence of the dorm, Claire realized with horror that the real Jenna had never returned. Something else had, and it planned to stay. Episode 10. The Mirror in the Basement. They told us the dorm's basement was off limits. The door was always locked, the key kept by maintenance, who muttered excuses whenever anyone asked. Mold, asbestos, storage. We all believed them, until the night I saw the light. I was heading back from a late-night snack run when I noticed it, a faint glow seeping from beneath the basement door, flickering like candlelight. My curiosity drowned out my common sense. I pressed my ear against the wood, whispering. Not one voice, but dozens, layered, frantic. The knob turned easily. The air inside was thick with dust and rot, but what froze me wasn't the smell. It was the object against the far wall, a full-length mirror framed in black wood, so tall it nearly touched the ceiling. Dozens of candles burned around it, though no one was there to light them. Their flames bent inward, as though sucked toward the glass. And in the reflection, God in the reflection, wasn't just me. The basement behind me was empty, silent. But in the mirror's surface I saw them, students, dozens of them, lined up shoulder to shoulder. Their faces pale, eyes sunken, mouths stitched shut. Each of them stared at me with unbearable intensity, like they'd been waiting for someone to finally open the door. I stumbled back, but the reflection didn't move with me. My mirrored self stood perfectly still, rooted in place, its lips beginning to twitch. Slowly, carefully, the stitches split open across its mouth, red seeping through like ink through paper. "You shouldn't be here," it whispered. The stitched students behind it began to chant, low and guttural, their voices pressed against the glass, making the mirror's surface ripple like water. I turned to run, but the basement door slammed shut, trapping me. When I whipped back around, my reflection was gone. Only the stitched figures remained, closer now, their hands pressed against the glass, leaving smears of black. The candles blew out one by one, plunging the room into darkness. And in that darkness, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was cold, and it wasn't mine. Episode 11. The Girl in the Shower. Every dorm has its legends. Ours was about the third-floor showers. Students whispered that if you stayed past midnight, you might hear humming, soft, melodic, almost soothing. The story went that years ago, a girl had drowned there when the drain clogged and no one heard her screams over the water. I thought it was just a ghost tale to scare freshmen, until the night I stayed late after practice, sweaty and exhausted, desperate for a shower. The bathroom was empty, steam clinging to the tiled walls. I turned on the water, hot enough to fog the mirrors, and let it drum against my skin. Then I heard it, humming. At first, I thought someone else had slipped in. I pulled back the curtain, but the stalls were empty, just the echo of dripping water. I told myself it was the pipes, but the humming grew louder. A woman's voice, mournful, floating just above the spray. My heart pounded. I checked again, still no one. The lights flickered. When I looked back, I froze. A shadow moved beneath the water pooling at my feet. Not mine. It stretched across the tiles, shifting, writhing, as though something beneath the floor was trying to claw its way out. The humming turned to sobbing, then to gasping. Suddenly the drain clogged. Water rose past my ankles, warm, red-tinged. I yanked at the knob, but the shower wouldn't shut off. The sobbing grew frantic, desperate, as though it was coming from under the water. And then I saw her. A pale face pressed against the drain. Mouth open, eyes staring directly into mine. Her lips moved soundlessly at first, then words bubbled through, muffled by the rising water. Help me. I staggered back, slipping on the tiles, as her hands, thin, bloated, waterlogged, forced their way through the metal grate. Fingers stretched, reaching for my ankles. I bolted from the stall, dripping, leaving the water running. By the time I returned with a friend minutes later, the shower was off. The floor was dry, but the drain cover was bent, and a wet handprint clung to the tile, right where I had been standing. Episode 12, The Footsteps on the Ceiling. Nights in the dorm were never truly quiet. Doors slammed, music bled through walls, and sometimes you'd hear laughter echoing down the halls long after curfew. But what haunted me wasn't laughter, it was footsteps. Not above me, not in the hallway, on the ceiling. It started the week I moved into room 309. At first I thought it was just the students upstairs, heavy thuds, pacing back and forth, sometimes even running. But then I realized there was no room above me. The fourth floor had been sealed off for years, condemned after a fire. The footsteps didn't care. They came every night, around 3 a.m. Slow, deliberate. Each step made the plaster tremble, sprinkling dust onto my desk. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, following the path of something I couldn't see. One night I made a mistake. I knocked back. The footsteps paused. Then they tapped back, 3 times. My blood ran cold. I told myself it was my imagination, that I was overtired. But the next night, the steps returned, louder, closer, until they stopped directly above my bed. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then, slowly, something crawled. I heard nails scratching against the plaster, dragging across the ceiling until they were right above my head. And then, crack! The ceiling split, a thin line tearing through plaster. Dust rained down onto my pillow. I leapt up, heart hammering, as a hand pushed through the crack, small, gray fingers unnaturally long. It twitched, searching, scraping against the air like it was feeling for me. I screamed and bolted out the door. My RA rolled his eyes when I told him, but when he went back to check my room, he came out pale. He didn't say what he saw, only that the room was under maintenance and I'd have to move. But I know what I heard last. The sound of feet following me down the hall, pacing just above my head, like it wanted to know where I was going next. Episode 13, The Locked Door at the End of the Hall. Every dorm has a door that no one talks about. Ours was at the very end of the east wing, painted over so many times it had no handle, just a blank, lifeless slab of wood. Rumor said it used to be a dorm room until something happened. A fire, a suicide, a disappearance, depending on who you asked. I should have left it alone. But on Thursday night, walking back from study hall, I saw it. A faint line of light glowing from the bottom of that locked door. Pale, bluish, pulsing like breath. I froze, my skin prickling. No one lived there. No one could live there. And then came the knock. 3 soft raps from the other side. Deliberate, waiting. I told myself to keep walking, but my feet disobeyed. I knelt, pressing my ear to the cold wood. At first, only silence. Then, a whisper. "Let me out." I stumbled back, heart racing. The light flickered, then dimmed, then returned brighter. This time, shadows danced across it, fingers pressing against the other side, stretching, clawing, leaving black streaks that oozed downward like ash. The whispers turned into a chorus. Male, female, young, old, all layered together, pleading, crying, some screaming. The sound grew until it vibrated in my chest, like the whole hall was filled with voices trying to tear through that door. And then, silence. The light cut out. I should have run, but I didn't. I waited, holding my breath. That's when the paint began to blister. The wood swelled, like something inside was pushing against it. Cracks spidered outward. A single word burned itself into the peeling surface, seared black as though carved from within. Soon. I bolted, not daring to look back. By morning, the door was pristine again. No cracks, no burns, but I know what I saw. And every night since, as I lie awake in my room, I hear faint knocking echoing through the halls, growing closer. Episode 14, The Night the Door Opened. We always thought the locked door at the end of the east wing would stay shut forever. It had no knob, no keyhole, just paint over wood. Like the building itself wanted to forget it was there. But last night it opened. I woke to the sound of screaming, not panicked, not random. Dozens of voices at once, rising in unison, echoing through the hall. When I ran to the east wing, other students were already there, wide-eyed, frozen in place. The door was pulsing. That's the only word for it. The wood expanded and contracted like it was breathing. The paint cracked apart, splitting down the middle until the door peeled open on its own. The air that poured out wasn't just cold, it stank of rot, mold, and something coppery, metallic. A draft so heavy it made our hair whip back. Inside, there was no room, just black. And then we saw them. Hands, reaching from the dark. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Pale, gray, bruised, clawing against the frame like they were climbing out of water. I recognized some of the faces that emerged next. Faces from the basement mirror, from the shower drain, from whispers we thought were legends. Their eyes were stitched, mouths torn open in silent screams. One of the freshmen collapsed to her knees, sobbing. "That's my brother," she whispered, pointing at a figure staggering forward. Her brother who'd gone missing 2 years ago. The voices rose to a shriek so loud the lights above us shattered. Glass rained down. The floor shook beneath our feet. And then the hands withdrew. All of them, yanked backward into the void, like something bigger had pulled its children back. The door slammed shut, the cracks sealed. It looked exactly as it always had. Blank, harmless, painted over. But before the last sliver of black disappeared, I swear I saw it. A single eye, massive and unblinking, peering out from the void, watching us. And in that moment, I understood. The door wasn't keeping something locked inside. It was keeping us safe from what lives beyond it. Episode 15, Inside the Door. By dawn, the administration had already taped off the east wing. Structural damage, they said. Unsafe. But every student who'd been there last night knew the truth. None of us slept, none of us could. And yet, when night fell again, I found myself standing in front of that door. It looked harmless now, just wood and paint, like nothing had happened. But I felt it breathing. Every few seconds, the air seemed to pull toward it, like the door itself was inhaling. I don't remember deciding to touch it. My hand just rose. The wood was warm, pulsing faintly under my palm, like the beat of a heart. And then it opened. Silently this time. No screaming voices, no shattering lights. Just a smooth swing inward, revealing the black void inside. Something should have stopped me. Fear, common sense, survival instinct. Instead, I stepped in. The air was thick, like walking underwater. My phone's flashlight cut only a few feet ahead, swallowed almost instantly by the dark. Still, I could see the walls, or what looked like walls. They weren't brick or plaster, but flesh. Pale, veined, twitching when my light touched them. The floor squelched under my shoes. Whispers surrounded me, circling, shifting. Some I recognized. The same cries from the mirror, the same sobs from the showers. Even Jenna's doubled voice from room 2A. They weren't stories. They weren't legends. They were all here. I stumbled forward until I found it. A hallway of doors. Dozens of them, stretching into infinity. Each one identical, but each leaking something different. Sobs, screams, laughter, prayers. Some shook violently, as though something inside wanted out. Others just whispered my name. And then one door creaked open on its own. Inside was a dorm room. My dorm room. Down to the unmade bed, the textbooks on the desk, the cracked lamp I'd taped together. But there was someone lying in my bed. Me. I stared at myself, breathing slow and steady, as though asleep. My double's eyes fluttered open, and in the beam of my phone light, I watched my own face smile back at me. "About time," it whispered. I ran. I didn't care where, I just ran. The hallway twisted, doors slamming around me, voices rising in a storm. Somehow, I don't know how, I burst back through the original door into the east wing. The hallway was empty, silent. But when I checked my phone, the screen was cracked. Not like it had been dropped. Cracked from the inside. The glass spiderwebbed outward as though something underneath had pressed against it. And faintly, in the reflection of the broken glass, I swear I saw another me. Still smiling. Episode 16, The Resident Assistant. I always thought our RA, Marcus, was unshakable. The guy broke up fights, handled emergencies, and laughed off ghost stories we whispered at 2 a.m. But after the night the east wing door opened, Marcus changed. He stopped making rounds. His eyes grew hollow, ringed with sleepless shadows. And sometimes, late at night, I'd see him standing at the end of the hall, just staring at that painted-over door like it was calling his name. Last night I found out why. I woke to a noise outside my room. Heavy breathing, uneven steps. Peering through the crack of my door, I saw Marcus shuffling barefoot down the hall, his hands trembling, a small flashlight shaking in his grip. He wasn't alone. Something followed him. At first I thought it was his shadow, stretched unnaturally long under the dim light. But shadows don't lag behind. Shadows don't twitch. This one crawled on all fours, head jerking in sharp, unnatural angles, its mouth wide in a grin far too big. "Not tonight," Marcus whispered. His voice cracked, like he was begging. "Please, not tonight." The thing behind him giggled, a low, childlike sound that made my stomach twist. Marcus reached the east wing door. Without touching it, the wood peeled back for him, like lips parting into a smile. The darkness beyond pulsed, waiting. He turned once, just once, and I'll never forget his eyes. They weren't desperate, they were resigned, like he'd been carrying a secret since the start. Then he stepped through. The shadow followed, skittering after him like a loyal pet. The door slammed shut. I ran to it, pounding my fists against the wood, screaming his name. No answer. But when I pressed my ear to the surface, I heard him, Marcus, whispering from the other side. "Don't let it find you." This morning, the administration announced Marcus had been transferred suddenly, no explanation given. His room was already cleared out. But in the silence of the hall, I swear I can still hear him, his footsteps pacing above us, his voice begging, warning. And sometimes when I'm alone, I feel it too. That shadow, crawling just out of sight. Episode 17, The Journal Under the Floorboards. After Marcus vanished, the dorm grew quieter, but not safer. The silence felt watched. Every whisper in the vents, every shadow at the corner of my eye carried his warning. Don't let it find you. I couldn't take it anymore. I started searching. If this place was a trap, I needed to know who built it. That's when I found the journal. It was buried beneath the floorboards of the old study lounge, wedged so deep it seemed like someone had tried to hide it forever. The leather cover was cracked, the pages yellowed, but the handwriting was sharp and frantic. The first entry was dated 1962. They built the dorm over the chapel ruins. No one told us. The foundation isn't stone, it's bone. The priests tried to bury it, but the ground remembers. The walls listen. I read faster, heart hammering. At night, the doors open. Not all of them lead to hallways. Some lead back to the chapel, back to the altar that still bleeds. The students disappear because it needs them, because it hungers. Every story we tell, every ghost we whisper, it makes them real. The dorm wants belief. Belief is food. The last entry was a scrawl of half-formed words, a warning. Don't look in the mirror. Don't follow the footsteps. Don't answer when the door knocks. They're not stories. They're the pieces of it. The mouths, the hands, the eyes. My fingers trembled as I turned the final page. A drawing covered it. An eye. Massive, lidless, drawn over and over until the ink bled through. Beneath it, one last sentence. When it sees you, it will not forget. The moment I read those words, the floor beneath me creaked, slowly, deliberately, as though something below was shifting. I shoved the journal back and fled, but I swear I heard the sound of nails scratching against the underside of the floorboards, like whatever I had just awakened wanted out. Episode 18, The Chapel Beneath. The journal's words haunted me. They built the dorm over the chapel ruins. It sounded insane, urban legend scrawled in a paranoid hand. But part of me knew it was true. Every ghost, every scream, every shadow led back to one place. So I went looking. There's an old access tunnel in the basement, hidden behind rusted shelves of paint cans and broken chairs. Most students don't even notice it. But I'd seen maintenance men slip inside once, years ago. Last night I tore the shelves away and found the door. The hinges shrieked when I opened it, dust billowing out like a breath. My flashlight barely cut through the darkness, but I stepped in. Following the narrow stone corridor downward, the air grew colder and wetter. At the bottom, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber, and there it was, the chapel, or what was left of it. The walls were scorched black, pews reduced to splinters, but the altar still stood. And it wasn't stone anymore. It pulsed. Veins ran through it, slick and glistening, as though it had grown from flesh. Streaks of dried blood clung to its surface, and hanging above it, nailed to the charred beams, were dozens of student IDs. Old, cracked, some from decades ago, faces staring down. captured smiles frozen in lamination. That's when I heard the voices. They weren't whispers now, they were prayers. A chorus rising from the walls, rhythmic, desperate, half in Latin, half in tongues I didn't recognize. My flashlight flickered. For a moment I thought I saw them, figures kneeling in the pews, shadows where no one sat, heads bowed in worship. And then the altar moved. It shuddered, splitting down the middle, revealing something inside. Not a relic, not a coffin, an eye. Massive, bloodshot, lidless, staring directly at me. The voices stopped. The silence was deafening. Then, from deep within the altar, a voice echoed. Not many voices, just one. "You've seen me." I dropped the flashlight and ran, stumbling back through the tunnel, hands shaking so badly I barely got the door closed behind me. When I returned to my room, gasping, I checked my phone. The screen lit up on its own, and in the reflection, for a split second, I saw it again. That eye, blinking. Episode 19. The mirror that reflected another's death. The first time I noticed it, I thought it was exhaustion. My dorm mirror, an ordinary rectangle screwed above the sink, showed not me, but someone else. A pale boy I didn't recognize, drenched in sweat, eyes wide like he was choking on air. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, but he stayed. He clawed at his throat, silently screaming. Then, he collapsed, his head slamming against the floor of a room I had never seen. When I turned to look behind me, the reflection reset. Just me, trembling, the tap still dripping. I told myself it was stress, exams, lack of sleep. But 2 nights later I heard the sirens. A student on the 3rd floor was found dead, his body twisted on the dorm bathroom tiles, his throat bruised as if he had been strangled. The exact boy from my mirror. Since then, the visions haven't stopped. Each night the mirror shows me another face, another violent end. A girl with blood dripping from her wrists. A man burned alive in shadows. A friend of mine sobbing, her body dragged into the dark. And then, last night, I saw myself. The glass didn't lie. My reflection staggered backwards, coughing red. Fingers clawing desperately at my chest as if something inside was tearing its way out. I smashed the mirror. Shards scattered across the tiles, catching the dim light. But in each piece I still saw it. Still saw me. Dying in dozens of fragments, again and again. I haven't slept since. I don't know when it will happen, or how, only that the mirror has never been wrong. And every time I close my eyes, I hear glass cracking from inside my room. Episode 20. The night the dorm remembered. It all came together the night the dorm remembered. Every whisper, every shadow, every vanished student, every door, every mirror, every floorboard, it had been waiting, patiently, silently, for us to realize the truth. The dorm isn't haunted, it's alive. I was in my room when it started. The walls groaned, a low moan that shook the plaster. Lights flickered violently, plunging the hall into darkness, then back into a dim, unnatural glow. The floor beneath my feet pulsed like a heartbeat, and then the whispers began. At first soft, names, dozens of them repeated over and over, then louder, hundreds, thousands, rising from the vents, from the walls, from the floor. The dorm was speaking. I ran, hallway to hallway. Every door I passed opened on its own, revealing twisted versions of rooms I had known. The basement mirror rippled like water. The locked east wing door moaned and breathed. The showers gurgled with invisible water, and I could swear faces pressed to the glass, screaming silently. I reached the main stairwell. The floorboards below me shivered. One split. A hand shot out, gray, twisted, clawing, trying to pull me in. I jumped back, heart hammering. Then the dorm remembered me. Every shadow reached for me. Every reflection I passed warped into something monstrous, grinning, whispering secrets about the chapel beneath, about the students lost, about what it wanted. And I understood. It wanted acknowledgement. It wanted belief. It wanted us to see, to fear, to accept that it was not a building, not walls, not floors. It was the sum of everything it had ever consumed. Every story, every scream, every vanished body, it lived in them. I ran into the lobby. The front doors were gone, replaced by blackness, thick, viscous, impossibly deep. And I realized there was no escape. The dorm didn't keep its prisoners inside. It was the prison. I screamed. The walls vibrated in response, as if laughing. Every light shattered. Every mirror reflected me, fractured into countless terrified faces, all shouting at once. Then silence. I woke in my bed, alone, the sun streaming through my window. The dorm seemed normal, but I can feel it. Every night, in the creaks of the floors, the hum of the vents, the shadows that stretch too far. It remembers, it waits, and one day, it will speak to me again, because the dorm never forgets.
Episode 21. It's still watching. Weeks have passed. The dorm looks normal. Maintenance replaced broken tiles, repainted walls, fixed the lights. Students laugh in the hallways. Life seems to have returned. But I know better. Last night, I heard it again. A soft knock at my bedroom door. 3 raps. Deliberate. Patient. I didn't answer. Then my mirror fogged. Even though the heat was off. Words traced themselves across the glass. You left, but we remember. I turned away. But the reflection lingered. Not my own face. Faces of the missing. Of Marcus. Of Jenna. Their mouths moved, whispering in unison, soon, soon. From the vents came the familiar thrum, the heartbeat of the building. Slow and steady. The dorm hasn't slept. It's alive. Waiting. Watching. Learning. I can feel it in my footsteps. In my shadow. In the light that bends just wrong around corners. And I know one thing. No matter how far I run, no matter how many rooms I leave behind, it will always find me. Because the dorm never forgets. And it will always be hungry.